Our example that we were on was asking us to evaluate 16. Guys, listen please. 16 to the 3/4 power. And it says evaluate the root component first, then the exponent. And here's the thing. Not only do I want you to evaluate these things, I want you to practice rewriting them, because that's really the skill that we want to make sure you know how to do. So how can you rewrite this in radical form? What's that? So 4th root of 16. 3 on the outside. And here's what's interesting. In reality, you could put the 3 here. Oftentimes you'll see parentheses. They're not actually needed. But we very easily could have said, oh, you know what? We're going to do the 3 first and put the 3 in there. It's going to get you the same answer. Now, but I suggest doing the root part first, because that'll get you a smaller number before you do the exponent, that makes it a big number. So it just keeps things more manageable. I'm hoping you guys kind of can figure out some of these without your calculator. What multiplied by itself 4 times gets you 16? 4 would be too much, wouldn't it? 2. Yeah, times 4 times 4. Because it's 4th root. So it's actually 2, isn't it? And then what's 2 to the 3rd power? 8. So do you guys see how this could get kind of crazy if you did 16 to the 3rd power first?
Yeah.
All right, let's try another one. Yeah.
Okay, so to get full credit or whatever, she would have to write it down to 2 cubed and then down to 8, or just do 8?
No, just 8 would be fine, but the instructions on your quiz, I believe, don't say evaluate. It just says to rewrite them. I'm just having you practice everything, okay? So on this next one, let's rewrite it first. It's 27 to the 4/3 power. So let's rewrite it as what root? 3rd root of 27 to what power? 4th power. And what is the cube root of 27? Yeah, it's 3, isn't it? It's 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So it's 3. And then we got to figure out 3 to the 4th power. I think so, yeah. I'm kind of envisioning all the 3's lined up. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. Multiply them together. 81. And now let's look at this one. It's got a parentheses, and it's negative 243, close parentheses, to the 2/5 power. Now, here's what's kind of frustrating. Will you guys go ahead and get out your fancy calculators, if you don't mind?
Broke.
Your fancy calculator's broke?
It won't. If I click to solve it, it won't solve it. It just says,
What?
it just keeps the thing.
Yeah?
I don't even know what mine is.
Yeah?
It's not clicking.
You do it, Marcelo.
4 plus 4 will solve it.
You sure?
Yeah.
So you know where it's at.
No, I have no idea where it's at.
Then you know where it's at.
My favorite.
I'm gonna try it. But it's not even on.
Oh. Yeah, I would just toss that.
Oh, I think it was after long. Okay, thank
I have
you.
no idea where it's at. It's somewhere.
Okay,
My little brother uses it.
now, ladies and gentlemen, this one's kind of interesting.
It broke.
Try putting this into your calculator using the parentheses and everything. See what it says. Okay, so some of you get an answer.
Mine says domain.
Some of you get error.
I get
And what's interesting, let me see what this calculates. I bet this one will do it. Let me see.
Wait, like with the parentheses or
Domain.
Yeah, with the parentheses.
Yeah, I put the parentheses in the domain.
Boy, that's weird. Yeah.
Domain.
All right. Ladies, I'll need you to tone it down. Are you guys actually? Is that what your seats are?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. So, here's the thing. A lot of calculators mistakenly think this is domain error because I think what happens is they're programmed to anytime it's a root of a negative number. You know how some of those are imaginary? Remember we talked about imaginary numbers the other day? Your calculator, I think, is programmed that whenever it sees a rational exponent and a negative, it says, can't do it. But that's not true. And here's why it's not true. If you do the fifth root of negative 243, if it was a square root or a fourth root or a sixth root, it wouldn't work because you would have pairs of numbers, right? And pairs of negatives make positives. But this is a fifth root. So you're going to have pairs, but you're always going to have one negative left over. Are you guys with me on this? So what's going to happen is we can rewrite this as fifth root of negative 243 to what power? 2. And 243, here's what I suggest you do. Ignore the negative for a second and do the fifth root of 243. Or we can break it down by hand. Think about what numbers go into this. It turns out it's what?
3. I got 3.
You forgot to.
I got negative.
Oh, yeah, that's the final answer. Final answer.
Oh, the final answer is 9. But for the fifth root of negative 243, it turns out that you'll get 3. But then here's what I want you guys to realize. Because the calculators don't always work for this stuff, whenever it's an odd root of a negative, your final answer is going to be negative. Okay? So yours worked out. That's awesome. That is awesome. So the fifth root of negative 243 is negative 3. Be wary, because how many of your calculators are still saying error on this? Are any of your calculators still saying error when you enter this part? Oh, okay. But now, notice, class, this negative is inside, right?
Yes.
And it's squared. So how should we probably write this?
My calculator understood it.
In
So
parentheses.
make it positive.
Because do you see how the squaring is going to be squaring everything?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we got to do is we got to make sure that there's a parentheses around it. So what I heard a lot of you say was accurate. It's positive 9. So it's a little bit tricky whenever you got negatives. Just kind of be wary. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I don't think on our quiz we have any that are unsolvable or whatever. So just be wary of if you have that negative, it's going to stick around if it's odd like that. Let's do one more example. Let's try. Oh well. So yeah. Now let's do one that doesn't work. Negative 16 in parentheses to the 3/2 power. You would rewrite this as square root of negative 16 to the 3rd power. But is this going to work out?
No.
Can you take the square root of negative 16? No. So we write not real. But I don't think that shows up on any of our quizzes. I'll double check, okay?
Wait, why can't you screw with negative 16?
Well, because what two numbers multiply together to make a negative?
None.
No, nothing.
It's impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. No, but it's kind of a neat thing to realize. It's like, no, you can't do that, can you? All right. What else do we got? Okay, so it looks like I've got 2 word problems to do. But here's the thing. The word problem component, you don't have to worry about because they actually give you like a formula to solve. But it is an application in the real world. And I should probably show you what these problems are. But instead, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. The equation you've got is you've got R is equal to parentheses 3v over 4 pi. And it's raised to the 1/3 power. And I can't remember what this formula. Oh, actually, I do. I can look at it now. I remember. It's actually finding the radius. You guys will have to. I'll have to double check this. But I believe this is telling you the radius of a cone. Of a cone. Do you guys know what a cone is?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a cylindrical pyramid.
Yeah, it's a cylindrical pyramid. Yeah, it's the radius at the bottom. Yeah. Yeah.
Would that be the same as finding the radius of a normal circle?
What's that?
Would that be the same as finding the radius of a normal circle since the bottom of the
Yes.
circle?
Yeah. But if you're given, look at what you'd have to be given. The volume. So this is the volume of a cone. So you don't know the circle stuff quite yet. Does that kind of make sense? All right, so here's the thing. We are to evaluate R when V is equal to 463 inches cubed. So I will double check in the book and see what this problem is actually talking about. But this is what we have to figure out. So what are we going to do with that 463? Put it in for V. And I would totally get it if you didn't want to put that in there as well. But I am, because some interesting things will happen with the units if we include them.
So it's cubed and not just inches.
So to figure this out, what would you suggest we do?
Multiply the top.
Multiply the top? Then what? Because I'm kind of thinking we may do a bunch of this in our calculator. Do what? Wait.
Multiply the bottom.
Say multiply or divide?
Multiply the
Oh.
bottom.
Simplify each.
Okay. Well, so I think we'd multiply this, but then wouldn't we want to divide all this stuff? Oh, you mean multiply the bottom as in multiply 4 times pi. I'm with you. Okay, so here's the thing with pi. Pi is irrational. It goes on forever. If I multiply 4 and pi together right now and simplify that, I'm going to have to round it.
Yeah, it's like a 12.
And then I'm going to have to take my rounded answer and then divide it. And that's going to make that little error in rounding expand and get bigger. So here's what I want you to try to do. I want you to try to multiply this together in your calculator. Has everybody got that in there?
100.
How do you make it inches square in our calculator?
Oh, you can't put that in. We're going to have to think about that, okay? But go ahead and multiply 3 times 463. And then in your calculator, go ahead and do divided by 4. And then also divide by your pi button.
So like whenever you divide by 4, you can hit the pi button.
You do, yeah.
So 4 by
110.3.
What's the
Okay.
pi button?
Wait, why am I the owner?
Oh, you should have a little pi buttons hiding somewhere.
Mine doesn't. Why did I get
I got 100. I got 100. Oh, you're wrong.
I
Oh, look.
I got 1,000.
Wait, so how do I do
I
Okay,
it?
now this is kind of important. Don't round that answer. Leave that answer in your calculator, right? So you did 3 times that. You divided by 4. You divided by pi.
Wait, so you
Now-
divide by 4 and divide by
Yeah, that should be fine. Then take that answer, leave that answer in your calculator, and just go exponent 1/3. Is everybody with me? Exponent 1/3. Just while it's still in your calculator, do exponent 1/3.
37.1.
I got 4 point.
I got 4.7.
So,
4.7991783.
Yeah. So what I have written on my paper is 4.799.
Let's go.
Let's go, okay.
I got 4.7.
Okay, so if you have this problem, it might say to round to the nearest 100th or nearest 10th or something like that. Right now, I think I rounded it to the nearest 10, hundreds, thousandths, right? If I like that. So we just want to check our instructions and see what they say. This didn't specify, so that means you can round it to whatever you want. Now, what about this inches cubed? Well, think about this. Wouldn't this end up being power of a power?
And that just means 3.
And so what happens to the 3? What do you get when you do 3 times 1/3? It's 1. So our unit is no longer inches cubed, it's just inches. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because isn't radius just a distance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool.
What's up, Carly?
I don't know what I did wrong.
Oh, okay, so let's find out.
And I like these were because
Yes. 3 times
I did. This is what I did. I know it's
No, I think it's how we have one.
What do you do? A fraction on this? And then one third.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Booyah.
Okay.
Yeah, now that looks good. Is everybody good with their calculator?
Yeah.
Yeah? You guys are awesome. I'll tell you what, you guys are great. Well, let's try another one, okay? Oh, Adelaide, did I not give you a calculator tomorrow? Yeah, this is exponent would be
Yeah, no, it would be
and just hold on to it until your mom gets you one, or just hold on to it for a bit, whichever.
You know what,
Okay.
I found that because I lost 2 calculators.
Yes, sir, I can have
Okay,
that.
I found
Oh, you
the
did?
first one, though.
Well, that's
Where it
cool.
Came from, it's just.
Huh,
Maybe
yeah.
it's Evie's missing.
I hold on to it, yeah, hold on to it, you may need it.
No, she's lost like 5 of them.
Alright, next up, ladies and gentlemen, we've got R is equal to parentheses F over P to the 1 over N power minus 1. And again, this is some other real world formula that I'll have to find here in a second. But now it says to evaluate R when F is equal to 360,000 and P is equal to 300,000. And guess what? We got more, don't we? And N is equal to 8 years. I don't know why 8 has units on it and nothing else does, so that's kind of silly. Let's just say N equals 8.
I can look up the equation.
So try this out and then check with your neighbor and see if they agree with your answer.
I got 1.02 babies or 5.0 years.
I get 0 and 0. I got 0 and 0 too. Okay, I'm here with the same line. Yeah, that's what I got. 0? That's what I got 0.020.
Here's the minus, here's the minus 1 here.
Okay, then I got a point 0.
You got 0.02 and some other numbers.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
You could do it on your calculator.
I want to say all the numbers, there's a lot of them.
Wait, what'd you get?
Yeah.
I definitely 0.023 years. What'd you get? Oh, I got it.
0.023.
Donna, what'd you get?
R is equal to 0.023.
I was right.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I heard a lot of you saying, I think, similar things, right? Awesome, awesome.